Good afternoon, everyone. 4 o'clock straight up on the East Coast. It is a Monday edition of Middays with Q. As always, I'm your host, Rich Quinones. 2 hours to play with. We will take you right up to 6 o'clock straight up, as we like to call Mondays the Man Up edition. We even take it a step further. It's a Lunes, Manolo, Mendioso, Man Up Monday edition of Middays with Q. Appreciate everyone keeping us tuned in. As always, busy show, as I mentioned, 2 hours to play with. We are powered by our good friends over at Triax 57. And of course, fresh roasted coffee. Get your cup of coffee. Check out the promo notes. BYP20, 20% off your first purchase. So here we are. You got a little NFL news and notes coming down. We've got what now appears to be a NBA Finals, which I still believe is set up for a gentleman's sweep. Game 3, NHL Stanley Cup Finals. That series is knotted up at one game apiece. The series shifts to Florida tonight between the Oilers and the Panthers. And then a lot of panic starting to set in baseball with a couple teams, and most notably, two teams that many believe were not only going to represent the NL and AL, but maybe make a run towards the World Series and win it, the Philadelphia Phillies and the New York Yankees. And let's start with the Philadelphia Phillies for a moment, because this is a team right now, they have zero identity. Zero identity. I mean, not only are you talking about bad pitching, you're talking about a lack of offense. I mean, they had a no-show over the weekend. It's inexplicable to lose and get swept by a team in Pittsburgh. You're coming in that series, you're 17 games under 500. 17 games under 500. The offense did nothing. You were able to muster up 6 runs in 3 days, in 3 games. That's horrible. You dropped 2 of 3 to the Blue Jays. You got swept by the Brewers. This is a bad baseball team right now. And the Mets, the Mets are playing at such a high level, 18 games over 500, 42 and 24. The Phillies are sitting at 37 and 28, 4.5 back of the Mets in the NL East. And the question pretty much for the Phillies and pretty much for a team like the Yankees, which I'm going to get into, you're looking at the pitching, you're looking at the lack of offense at times, and it's not good. And it would worry me if I'm one of those fans respectively, because, and as a Yankees fan, I think you guys know where I stand with this. As a Yankees fan, you got to say to yourself, listen, this is not what you want, right? This is not what you want if you are a Yankees fan, because their offense has just been horrible. And their pitching has been horrible of late. I'll get into the Red Sox series. I will get into that as well. But listen, the Phillies, Yankees, two teams that I think many of us thought were going to contend and make a run here. And maybe I'm a little too harsh on the Yankees with their offense. They had a bad series against the Boston Red Sox. But if you're a Phillies fan right now, you've got questions. You've got questions. And we know that the trade deadline is right around the corner. And I believe the Phillies are going to be very aggressive. I think right now they're struggling on offense. That's a 1-9 stretch. You just got swept by the Pirates. Again, you're talking about Harper, the injuries. You lose Alvarado due to suspension. It's just not, it's not a good look right now. And I think if you were to be fair, it doesn't matter who you want to blame, but the list goes on and on, top to bottom of that lineup. Top to bottom of that lineup. So pick your poison if you're a Phillies fan. You can pick your poison. They just haven't played well. They just haven't. And you can go up and down, who's hitting, who's not hitting. Do I need to shake up things? Do I need to move things around? I mean, what's the saving grace here, right? I mean, you would think they'll at least be a playoff team, but right now they're pretenders in the NL. And they're starting to reveal themselves. They're not one of those teams, right? Starting rotation can be good at times, but then all of a sudden you get guys that are falling out of place. Now think about this. You're always relying on the big bats, right? Whether it's Schwarber, whether it's Turner, whether it's Harper. Those are the bats that you want to kind of keep afloat. So now you've got the issue with Harper on the IL with the right wrist inflammation, and he's going to be gone for weeks. You got Schwarber, one of the best hitters in baseball, starting to cool off. So is Turner. So you got that pillar of offense, and they're being, besieged by some of these injuries of late. And I might have jinxed. I thought an NL Cy Young Award winning candidate, and I thought it was in Jesus Luzardo. And by the way, since I said Jesus Luzardo is an NL Cy Young Award winning candidate or an NL Cy Young candidate, he spit the bit in his last two outings. So again, you want to sit there and again blame the Death Star microphone. Joey B, always good to hear from you, my friend. Yes, it's a Monday show with the Death Star. We can do it. We can do it. Let's go. Good afternoon, Q. Right back at you, brother. You can blame the Death Star mic. You can blame some of my Q-Fectos brought to you by Fresh Roasted Coffee. Whatever. Wherever you guys want to, lay your hat and wherever you want to blame me, go ahead. But right now, this is a team that has some serious issues. Now, you get the benefit of the fact that this is going on in the NL East. The Atlanta Braves are spitting the bit. And the Atlanta Braves right now, they are 14 games back, I believe, 13, 14 games back. They're 10 games under 500. Nationals are 11 and a half back. The Mets are trying to run away with this thing. So, point being is this type of slide, Atlanta's dropped 7 straight. They're going to try to shut down that slide tonight with Sale on the hill. And by the way, I think he might be a trade candidate. I think he might be a chip there. Phillies have lost 5 straight. Nats have lost 2 in a row. They're just 2-8 over their last 2-8 over their last 10. Think about that. Meanwhile, the Mets are 8-2 over their last 10, and they won 3 straight. All of a sudden, their offense is coming alive. Alonso with a couple big blasts, passes David Wright. He's 9 back of the straw man for the all-time home run leader in Mets history. And the Mets are feeling pretty good about themselves. They're playing their best baseball of the season right now, period. And if they keep winning, Washington, Atlanta, and the Phillies keep tripping up, all of a sudden you find yourself down, 10, 11 games in middle July, going into August? You don't want to be there. That's not a spot you want to be. So again, this is, you're looking at a Phillies team that is trying to find someone who's going to step up. It was going to be Bryson Stott, right? Listen, this guy can steal bases. He can get on base. He's hitting leadoff, and I think that's pretty much symbolic of what the Phillies feel about this kid. And again, his numbers have gone up and down. It's his 4th year in the bigs. You look at his OPS, it's above league average once in those 4 years. So, what do you do with him, right? I mean, it's just, you have to figure out something when guys like Schwarber and Castellanos, who again, he hits. We can talk about the defense and the liability, whatever, but you can talk about Schwarber, Turner, the inconsistencies, no Harper now. You got the lack of a viable center field replacement on the trade market. That's an issue. So I just think right now you've got to figure out what you're doing. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you right away. I'm not going to play this game because I feel as though we've had this conversation in baseball every year with so many different teams. When you start to talk about the hot seat, right? And I know you get swept by Pittsburgh, and that's a bad look, and it's a bad sign. I get it. I understand that. But eventually, you have to say to yourself, okay, why are we not getting the job done? Why are we not getting the job done? And that's a question that needs to be answered for both these managers respectively. And again, I think you know where I'm going with this. I mean, I have my issues, obviously, with Boone. But you think about what the Phillies did when they fired Girardi. This was in 2022. They started that season 22-29. What happens? You fire Girardi, and you go the interim route with Rob Thompson. And he got paid, and he got extended, and he got the vote of confidence from the brass because of what they were able to do in the postseason. That's really what it is. It's, getting to the postseason, you have some wiggle room. And now I'm starting to think to myself, okay, when do you not have that wiggle room anymore? Right? When do you I don't it's hard for me to blame Thompson right now. But I believe this team had very high expectations, just like the team in the Bronx, my team, the Yankees. They had very high expectations. So now you have to say to yourself, okay, they're not hitting. They got issues with their pitching. They've got issues in the outfield. Guys are banged up. Eventually, someone's got to take the fall for this. And I think the Phillies at this moment, they better figure it out. They better figure it out because you start to lose another 4, 5, 6, 7 in a row, and that losing streak becomes 13, 14, 12 games, 10 games. Guys are looking around a little bit. It's bad right now. It's bad. Now, you can right the ship pretty fast. You can right the ship pretty easily. You can by picking up wins. And you get to try to stop that bleeding. Well, Wheeler on the mound tonight, who's 6-2 with a 2.96 ERA. And the Cubs have played well, and the Cubs are a good team on the road. Listen, here's a spot for the offense to wake up a little bit too, because Boyd's given up right around 3.2 runs a contest. So the Phillies have issues. Then you have the Yankees. And I touched on this earlier today. What's going on with the friggin' Yankees? Now, am I going to sit here and give you panic mode on a Mentiroso, Lunas, Man Up, Manolo Monday? No, I'm not. I have concerns. I have a lot of concerns right now with the Yankees. I do. And my biggest concern is the manager, which I feel as though we're always having that conversation, and also the pitching. I mean, right now, you look at the Yankees, they're 4.5 games up on Tampa Bay for the AL East lead. They got a 6-game stretch on the road, Kansas City for 3 and then Boston for 3. Now, the AL East, kind of like the NL East, the Yankees are trying to run away with it, but they lose 2 or 3 against the Boston Red Sox, who stink. Let's just be honest. So the Yankees start 14-9. So they get that early season success. And I'm not even counting about the debacle this weekend. But everyone wants their team to be 15, 20 games over 500. Chicago, the Cubs, Detroit, the Mets, they're not 20 games over 500. They might be 16, 17, 18, but they're not. And they're doing just fine. So the Yankees start off 14-9, then 25-16 since. They're 14 games over 500. But all that being said, you can't lose 2 or 3 to Boston. You can't. Who dropped 2 or 3 coming in to the Angels? Whether you want to call this a rivalry, if it's lost its luster, the juice, that's fine. But perfect example, Saturday's on Boone and then Sunday's on the pitching staff. So Boone basically pushed the wrong buttons 2 or 3 games. So what else is new? I mean, after a while, it's just my buddies will text me, keep this guy around for the next 15, 20 years. And the moves he's making with an already suspect thin bullpen, that is alarming. Saturday's a perfect example. The Yankees are up 3-1 against Boston. Boston then scores 9 of the game's next 13 runs, and they win 10-7. Now, it's not on Boone. It's not all on him. But some of these moves, just like some of the moves that Thompson had made, have backfired for the Phillies. They're backfiring for the Yankees. You're deploying Ian Hamilton out there in the ninth with a 1-run deficit, which quickly turns into a 3-run deficit. Why? Because he's walking guys. Guys are getting on base runner, base runner, base runner. And then, boom, the Red Sox push a couple runs across. And then yesterday was embarrassing. 11-7 against the Sox. And Rodon pitched well for 5. Then he gave up a couple home runs. He imploded. 11 runs, 12 hits, 5 homers later. It's frustrating because you watch these games and these teams play good, tight, early, then they fold. And that's not the mark of championship. That's not the mark of teams that are going 90-plus games and make a deep run in October. It's not. Aaron Judge is putting up historic numbers. His MVP odds are disgusting. He's minus 4,000. Give him the award right now. Give him the award right now. But it means nothing if they can't figure out what the hell they're doing in October. And it's frustrating because you're talking about 2 baseball markets, 2 premium markets, and both teams, I think, right now are underachieving. I think the Phillies are in more trouble than the Yankees. I believe the Yankees will go out and get a frontline starter. I really do. And as I mentioned, Rodon has pitched well. He pitched well, leading up to the implosion. Last season he was 16-9. His ERA was under 4. This season he's 8-4, including Sunday's loss. His ERA is 2.87. He's on pace for 200 strikeouts, and he's not trying to blow guys away with their fastball and their slider, right? He's not trying to blow them away with that. And I think he's matured. I think mentality, is it's changed postseason. Some bad outings will humble you. And Boone is, keep reiterating him, chop the wood, chop the wood, chop the wood. I listened to a pod. He did an interview, Rodon, and you can tell he's very mature and he understands, hey, look, man, you're playing in that New York market. You got to go out there. You got to give them 5, 6, 7 strong. And I think what you're seeing right now is offensively, you score 20 runs in a series, you should win. You should win. And the Yankees are your classic enigma right now. They are. They're an enigma. I can't figure them out. You play great against Cleveland, against the Dodgers, 2 or 3 against a very good Mets team. You sweep the Rangers. You just can't figure them out. So we can look at both these teams and we can blame the managers too. And I think that's low-bearing fruit. But I think at the end of the day, for the Phillies, you got to fix the outfield. You're going to need another bat. You need an infusion with that offense. And all of a sudden, you're really just going to bank now going forward. I mean, can you trust Jesus Luzardo? You can trust Wheeler. Can you trust middle relief? Can you trust the pen? Nola's had his issues and banged up as well. And then if you're the Yankees, your bullpen stinks. You have to go out and get a frontline starter. Offensively, I'm not concerned. I'm not. Volpe, Wells, Rice, Bellinger, Stanton could begin his rehab assignment today. Rice is having a breakout year, 825 OPS, 12 home runs. You're not going to move him at first because Goldschmidt's playing really well there, and you're not going to option him either. So, as I said, sometimes we want our teams to be 20 games over 500, but if you look at the Yankees right now, up on Tampa Bay, Baltimore stinks, Toronto, and then you got the Boston Red Sox. I have more confidence the Yankees can win the AL East than I do the Phillies can win the NL East. Now, they might be vying for the wild card. But that being said, there are moves to make. Always moves to make. Man chimes in, Yanks will scorch in July, August, and the real test will be ALCS or World Series. Yeah, it always is. It always is. It never changes with this team. I don't care what the hell you do in a divisional round, wild card round, ALCS. When you get to the World Series, what the hell happens with those bats? What happens to Aaron Judge? I mean, Aaron Judge puts up historic numbers during the regular season. And then all of a sudden, he struggles. He struggles in the postseason. He can bat 365, 65 home runs, driving 130, OPS, 490, slugging 778, win another AL MVP. It means nothing to me if he goes 1 of 18 in the ALCS, versus insert team here, Detroit, Houston. It means nothing to me. So we got a lot of baseball on the docket. By the way, I did mention I think the Yankees are going to be in play for a frontline starter. And I already gave you the name, Chris Sale. He's pitched brilliantly for Atlanta. That's about to be a sinking ship. So that's something to watch. NBA, NHL, those finals resuming respectively. We'll get into it on the other side. Some NFL news and notes to get down. Some teams, when guys get cut, we love to have the conversation. Go out and sign this guy. Go out and sign this guy. I want to get into it. I want to get your baseball thoughts as well. You got the Yanks in the AL East, the Phillies in the NL East. Who's in more trouble, Yanks or the Phillies? Two teams, by the way, if you look at the odds, and the odds, the gambling public, collision course to play in the World Series. And I don't know how much falls on the managers, and I'm seeing some Phillies fans chiming in. We'll get to that as well. Keep the comments coming. Don't forget, we'll take you up to 6. NBA Finals. I'll kind of set it for you when we come back from the break. Last night, pretty much calmed the waters. I told you on Friday there was no way the OKC Thunder were losing Game 2. Now the question is, are the Pacers actually going to win another game? Is this going to be a gentleman's sweep? NFL news and notes, the Q Factor, you as well. Keep it locked into a Man Up Monday, or as you guys like to say, a lunes, monolo, mendioso, Man Up Monday edition of Middays with Q. I mean, say that after a while. It just kind of rolls right off the tongue. We are powered by our good friends over at TriX57. Quick timeout, your comments on the other side. Keep it locked in. We'll take you up to 6 o'clock straight up on a Monday in June. All right, welcome back, everyone. 21 past 4 o'clock hour. It's a Monday edition of Middays with Q. I'm your host, Rich Quinones. Don't forget, you can always capture us on the YouTube channel. You can also subscribe, like, and comment. We're on Facebook. We're on X. We're working on a couple other platforms as we speak. And we always encourage you guys getting in on the conversation. You can follow me on all social media, as we like to throw that out. We'll give you the Q Factor sometime in the 5 o'clock hour. By the way, yeah, the current odds for Judge minus 4,000. It's ridiculous. He was, I think, 2,500 like 3 days ago. And now, here you go. Question of the day. Will the Pacers win another game? So NBA Finals Game 2, I'm going to get to your comments too. NBA Finals Game 2 was last night. OKC absolutely just decided we're not playing around anymore. So we'll get into some NBA. Let me clean up a little baseball talk. I want to get to some of your comments because I always appreciate you guys chiming in. Jovan says the Phillies seriously need to consider calling up Justin Crawford. They have nothing to lose at this point. Man, you want to call him? I think I wonder, Jovan, is this only because you're looking at what other teams are doing? I think Boston just called up a kid. Kansas City called up again. Otto Kemp was called up. You would think that Crawford is next. And look, we know Phillies fans are just, this kid's got ridiculous speed and contact. I mean, it's like a lightning bolt. I mean, they're waiting to see this kid. They are. They are waiting to see this kid. Now, I think right now, the Phils are in a very familiar position that we've seen in recent past, right? So you're trailing the Mets by a handful of games. You're clinging to that NL wildcard spot. You're narrowly ahead of St. Louis. And it just is, you kind of mentioned, right? The lackluster offensive performance by the outfield. Castellanos, aside, has played particularly well, but Kepler, who's the regular left fielder, has managed just 6 home runs, 21 ribbies. I think 208, not going to get it done, right? Rojas, Marsh, a little better. And I guess that's what you're looking for, right? That spark within. That spark within. This kid's 21. He's been tearing it up in AAA, Lehigh Valley. I think 349, 416, 448 in 52 games. Now, he's hit just one home run, but 26 ribbies, 23 stolen bases. Listen, small ball, manufacture runs, right? So now you're talking about a player that would add another dimension to a team that, oh, by the way, is tied for 6th in baseball with 58 stolen bases. They want that speed and production. And listen, I think, do you call him up now at this moment, right, to give him some juice? Yes, that's the player. Thank you. Roman Anthony just called up. Yep. And you saw Kansas City call it up a stud too. But do you wait? I mean, let's just say for argument's sake, the Phillies right now are 4.5 games back. Wow, this is a crazy, crazy stat that I'm going to pull up in a second. But their run differential is plus 15. Washington's is minus 51, and they're 30 and 35. Go figure. You can't figure out baseball. Let me give you the next couple series for the Phillies. So they've got Chicago, as we mentioned, and then they have Toronto. So you're looking at a 6-game homestand. Then they have 4 against the Marlins, and the Marlins stink. Let's say, for argument's sake, they're 37 and 28. They take 2 out of 3 against Chicago, starting tonight with Wheeler on the hill. You take 2 out of 3 against Toronto, and 3 out of 4. 8 and 3 and 11. That gets you. Now you're 45. You're sitting right at 14 games over 500. You're sitting at 13 games over 500, and then you got the Mets coming up in what do we got? June, and then obviously the trade deadline's right around the corner before you hit, kind of like the heart of that second half of the schedule. With, by the way, winnable games, winnable series. Do you wait then? Do you wait then and you call him up? Or do you do it now? And also, the Phillies need bullpen help too. They need bullpen help. Their bullpen stinks. It won't shock me if they take a flyer on. It won't shock me if they take a flyer on Aroldis Chapman. Because if the Red Sox keep floundering, then again, think about it. That can be the most crucial addition that Philly makes as an impact southpaw, which would replace who? Alvarado. So that's something to kind of ponder. Let me see. Jovan says, I also put some of the blame on Dombrowski for not re-signing Hoffman or Estevez. Put faith in Romero and Kepler on one-year deals, which hasn't panned out. Yep, it happens a lot in baseball, though. It happens a lot in baseball. Sometimes you take a flyer on some of these guys, and whether it's a 1 or 2 year, you don't get anything out of them. You don't get anything out of them. I mean, we've seen it. We've seen it with, major market teams. Major market teams always will make that one move where it never look to this day. And I know these are apples and oranges. I was probably the only one, as crazy as this sounds, had no desire for the Yankees to go and get Stanton. None. And now he's been with them for what, 7 years? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is his 7th or 8th season. I just never was. I just felt you didn't need it, right? And what happened? He had that big season where he was the MVP with the Marlins, and what do the Yankees do? Throw the money, right? 59 home runs, 132 ribbies, finished first in MVP, comes back next year with the Yankees, production drops. Then he's hurt, COVID, numbers dip, and he's always been banged up. He always has stints on the DL. Sometimes I think we want to make a splash and we want to spend a lot of money, and we're spending it in the wrong spots. And the Phillies have done that over the years. The Yankees have done that. The Mets have done that. The Cubs have done that at times. And it bites you in the ass sometimes. It really does. It bites you in the fanny sometimes. It's a long baseball season. So no one's running away with anything right now. No one is. Franchise, big Yankees fan in Delaware chiming in. Q. They could have had a knockout blow to the Red Sox. Inexplicable, as you mentioned. They got to take at least 5 of 6 over their next 6. I mean, that's a panic. Like, Yankees fans, relax. Relax. Seriously. You guys panic. Yeah, Boston stinks. You shouldn't have dropped 2 or 3. You should have won 2 or 3. Tampa's going to be the team that pushes New York. It's not going to be Toronto. It's not going to be the Red Sox. And it's certainly not going to be Baltimore. I mean, Baltimore is 13 back. And they actually had a little run. They're 7-3 over the last 10. But they stink. They stink. They're not getting production like they've gotten offensive production in years past. I mean, the only player on that squad right now with 10 or more home runs is Mullins. I mean, they've got issues, so they might be selling off at the trade deadline. So just, just you got to give it, I would say, a couple more weeks. If you're still seeing some things you can't control, injuries you can't control, guys going on the shelf you can't control. But what you can control if you're a manager is, plug and play, making the lineup work, managing your staff, your pen, your middle relief, your starters. And some guys are just too loyal or they're too adamant and they do things their way, and that's it. The Phillies are sitting right there in the wild card spot. So now it's the Cardinals one game back. San Diego, Giants, Phillies, Cardinals. And as I mentioned, the Yankees are front runners right now in the AL East. So I wouldn't get too panicky over that stuff. All right, my question of the day: are the Pacers going to win another game in the NBA Finals? Because yesterday was your classic, and by the way, 4:30. Yesterday was your classic. Okay, this is kind of what we expected. I feel as though, and it's not the Death Star, Mike. It's not. But explain to me again how we can sit here and we laud these players. Like, if I'm an Indiana Pacers fan, which I am not, as much as I give him credit, Tyrese Halliburton has to be the most frustrating player. Really, really. I mean, 17 points. I don't care about the shooting percentage. I don't care, turn the ball over 5 times. He didn't even get to the line. He didn't even get to the line Sunday. 26 the Pacers shot. Take a wild guess how many times OKC went to the line. 33 times. Oh, by the way, SGA 11-12 from the charity stripe. I think this series is over. I think the feel-good story of the Indiana Pacers and this run to the NBA Finals and, Tyrese Halliburton, clutch for all time, I think it's done. I think OKC decided enough is enough, man. Enough is enough. We are not going to allow this team that's inferior to us to come back in our building and win. And you just saw it. And they made adjustments because that's what the NBA is all about. They made adjustments. And as much as you want to sit here and say the way you beat the Pacers is, slow it down, right? Slow it down, slow it down. That's for some teams. The Thunder don't have to do that because they've got scores. They've got scores in the wing. They've got scores that can shoot from the outside. They can go inside. They have solid bench. They have depth. I mean, listen, you're getting 20 from Caruso. You got 18 from Wiggins. You got 38 from bench guys. Actually, you got, 3-6. Even though it was a 16-point win, if we're really going to be fair, 28, 34. You got 36 bench points. SGA had 34 in 36 minutes. He made it look easy last night. But then Williams had a quiet 19, if that's possible. And they shot the ball particularly well from beyond the arc. The Pacers' rotation, their defense stunk last night. And they opened up. See, the Thunder showed you that game one was just we had too much time on our hands, a little rust. We took this team for granted because they opened up another big lead. And they kept control this time. They decided, listen, we're not, and balanced scoring, whether it's Holmgren, Wiggins, Williams, that's the mark of a really good team. There was not going to be a 15, 16-point deficit erased in that fourth quarter like the Pacers did in game one. It just wasn't happening. And I saw Turner's about to cash in. Good for him for the Pacers. So you got game 3, Indianapolis. I think the series is over. I don't see how the Pacers can stop OKC. I don't. Oklahoma City is going on the road, and they're almost a 6-point favorite. They were 18 games better in the win column than the Pacers in the regular season. Like this is a mismatch of an NBA Finals. It reminds me of the Lakers and the Sixers. It reminds me of what was the other one I gave you? Hell, even my Knicks against the Spurs, 99, the lockout season. You get one win, and the ratings stink. I told you guys, nobody is watching this finals. They stink. This is the lowest rated finals since the COVID year in 2020 and 2021. They're averaging 4.7, 8.9 million viewers. That is horrible. I don't even know people in OKC or Indiana are watching these finals. That's embarrassing. That's embarrassing. So, yeah, you gave us a nice classic game one, but how much did we really think that was going to impact the finals? I watched last night, and then when it got to 15, I said, "The hell with this." I put on Netflix. Got a couple of good shows, by the way, I've been watching. So those numbers are an 18% ratings decline, 19% viewership decline from last year's NBA's finals opener, which was a little more, juice, Boston and Dallas. So the commissioner can tell you all you want, right? And I'll tell you, they really are spinning it. This is the NBA communications. They tweeted this out. Indiana's game one victory over OKC in the NBA Finals on ABC peaked with 11 million viewers at the end of the fourth quarter when Tyrese Halliburton hit the game-winning shot. Why? Because everyone was probably flipping through, or they got texts from their buddies. Like I text my buddies and said, "Turn the game on, turn the game on, turn the game on, turn the game on, turn the game on." And obviously he makes a game-winning shot with 0.3 seconds left. So you're going to get that great viewership among 18 to 35-year-old demographic. Game one averaged nearly 3 times more viewers than the next most watched program on any other network. Game one generated more than 500 million views on social media. I mean, but you're spinning that. It is not a sexy finals. It's not. And here's the other thing. I don't know if you guys saw this. Everyone's in an uproar because they don't even really have like the finals MVP, the finals the graphic, the logo. They had to superimpose. They had to throw that graphic up on the screen. I mean, can we do a better job with the production? What are we doing here? Not a single NBA Finals logo on the court for the finals? Can we do better? ESPN, hello? You have some money, don't you? The last time I checked. You can't make that happen? And then what do? They want to cut corners. So they had the CGI trophies, right, that were superimposed on the court. What a debacle. It's a crappy finals. It really is. And I'm not, yes, obviously I wanted the Knicks in the final. You would have had more juice with New York and OKC. You would have. 100% you would have. And I don't know if the NBA made the call or if ABC/ESPN made the call, but, you got a trophy part of the cover Sunday night, and you got two. The problem was they weren't painted on the court. They were those CGI trophies, right? They were digitally displayed. Looked ridiculous. It's like when you have that horrible, if you're on that Zoom call with that bad backdrop, at work, all of a sudden, you're making yourself pretending you're at the beach. That's bad. That's really bad. These finals have no juice whatsoever. I think OKC is going to win it in 5. I really do. And I can tell you this, if OKC goes in Indiana tomorrow or Wednesday night, Indianapolis, and they smoke them by 15, 20, then you are going to get an ugly Friday game as well. And rest assured, Monday would be the coronation. And they might be a double digit. They might be a 10 to 12 point favorite in that game if it plays out like that. It's just there is no juice. And then the NBA wants to know why, right? They want to know what's wrong with the rate. The All-Star week and the festivities, the games, they're not like it was. The game is so wide open. Nobody's playing defense. You have to wait for the playoffs to the game to get ratcheted up. You have to deal with some bad officiating, some bad takes on replay, some lack of instant replay, some lack of officiating, bad calls all around. And if you want to really be honest, and I don't know if I'm being fair with this, and you guys might disagree. How about the star power in these finals? How about the star power? So OKC has an MVP in SGA. I said the other day I thought Halliburton was trending to being, a star. I don't know if he's not on the level of SGA. And Indiana has a bunch of players that are nice. Siakam's not a star, Neesmith's not a star, Turner's not a star. They're very nice players, but OKC has a bona fide franchise player that we believe is not only the face of the franchise, maybe the face of the NBA and SGA. So there's your star power. Pacers don't have that, and that's lacking. That's one of the problems you have with, again, this type of series. You're trying to hang your hat on something. But I think the series is done. I think the series is done. Listen, I would love to see the Pacers win a game or two, win another game or two, push the series a little bit, make it interesting. I'm just not seeing it. Joe D in Summers Point chimes in. Q, you hit the nail right on the head. The ratings stink because look at these teams. SGA, yes, he's got star power, he's got markability, he's a hell of a player, but the Pacers have no one. Again, they have players. They're just not on the level of the guys that we mentioned. They're just not on that level. They're not, Brunson is a star. Karl Anthony Towns is a marketable guy. I'm not going to sit there and say Cat is a star, but it just doesn't have. There's no juice, and that's what's missing. That's what's missing. Matt chimes in. Q, did you see who the real reason was behind the firing of Thibodeau? So I saw a couple different reports that it was Dolan. I'm still not buying it. Vincent Goodwill of Yahoo reported that the Knicks' decision to fire Thibodeau was, quote, spearheaded by James Dolan. I'm not going to dismiss his report, but I'm not entirely going to agree with it. I'm not, because Leon Rose makes a substantial amount of money. And it's not like Leon Rose had a, pitch Dolan on getting rid of Tibbs, right? I think where this gets lost in translation with stuff or the reporting, let's go back. You can talk about anything you want, whether it's, you want to sugarcoat it, you want to be honest, whatever. I don't believe that Dolan, who just maybe didn't like Tibbs, that's what's being reported. You don't need to run it by Rose, but certainly if Rose wanted to make the decision to fire Tibbs, the money he's making, the power he has, if Dolan would have said no, Rose would have been like, all right, see ya. And again, I'm not going to, everyone's crushing the franchise and how it's being run. Yeah, it's been run piss poor. It's been run piss poor. No one's debating that. No one's debating that. But now, if they turn around and make this mammoth offer deal and they trade or they make a move for Giannis, you guys are going to be loving it. You're not going to care who the hell the head coach is. You're not. You're not. So whether you believe it was Dolan, whether you believe it was Rose, that helps you sleep better at night. It doesn't. At this point, it doesn't matter. I believe the Knicks should go after Jason Kidd. I told you, if I'm gonna pull the trigger, connect the dots, Giannis, Jason Kidd, DJ Wright, pipe dream, it ain't happening. We talk about it. He's not leaving the booth. Malone's had issues with management in the past. That's not happening. So again, take it for what it's worth, right? Because anytime an owner comes out and says a person's job is safe, that pretty much means they're in trouble. You guys all work, you have jobs. How many times have you gone in there and your boss said, hey, you're doing a hell of a job, enjoy the weekend? And then you turn around after the holiday or you come back on Monday and you're out of a job. So I'm not putting anything by anyone. All I'm saying is that just let it Let it play out. Let it play out because I'm looking at a couple things. I'm looking at who's going to be available, who's going to want the job, and how much power are they going to be given. That's all. You have to factor in all that. We'll get to a couple comments on the NBA Finals. Man, you guys are crushing. You guys are crushing the NBA Finals. And why Frankie chimes in, Q, do you really believe it was a haste job of firing Tom Thibodeau? Do you think it was a knee-jerk reaction? I think the Knicks take a major step back. If they don't make it back to the Eastern Conference Finals, what say you? Again, you're talking a year or so away. We're talking a year or so away. They should have beaten the Indiana Pacers. They blew game one, period. End of story. Move on. Move on. That's it. That's just how it is. Like, there's nothing more to talk about. They had their chances. They couldn't finish it. They couldn't. You want to blame Tibbs? Not having Robinson on the floor? The Brunson issues on the bench? Relying too much to the starters? Whatever. Didn't trust his bench. That's fine. That's fine. KG, Q, did you see that? Pacers are 0-4 in the playoffs on Sunday games. Hashtag BYP. Oh, interesting. So then we're saying if we want to have a profitable, then we need we're not going to get it because game 4 would be on Friday. Game 5 would be Monday. Game 6. Oh, hold on. We got to push this baby to a game 7. Push it to a game 7, and then we'll see what the line says. That's fair. Then we can back your play on that one. That's fair. That's fair. I have no problem with that one. Casey Kidd looks like a linebacker. Yes. McJesus is on tonight. Game 3. That Stanley Cup Finals has had more buzz than the NBA Finals. That series has the makings of going 7 games. Anytime you can get overtime games in NHL playoffs, must watch. It's beyond must watch. So we've not only gotten it once in the Stanley Cup Finals, but we've gotten it twice. I mean, that's pretty impressive. That to me is, that's why you watch these games, right? You get the Oilers winning it in game 1, 4-3 in overtime, which was a great white knuckler of a game. And then Friday, you turn around, McJesus, right? And you get the Panthers winning it in double overtime, 5-4. And now, as they say, the series shifts to Florida, which is now turning into a hockey town. I stand by that. Florida is a hockey town. It's no longer a basketball town. It's not a football town. It's not a baseball town. It is a hockey town. What do we got here? Sarge in Delaware chiming in on X. Q, you mentioned the Phillies, and you're right. I think a lot has to do with the manager. I'm not really sold on Thompson. A lot of injuries. Harper's been banged up over the last several years. How much more do you think he can go at this rate? And as you mentioned, the starters have not been as good. Well, 2 things. I think Wheeler's pitched exceptionally well this year for the Philadelphia Phillies. I mean, he is a very good pitcher. And Luzardo, if you want to blame me. But prior to him getting rocked, his last 2 outings was pitching really well. Nola's been banged up. We talked about the pitching last week. But Sanchez has pitched well. Christopher Sanchez has pitched well. You might get Wheeler, Luzardo, Sanchez winning, 12 games, 13 games. I think Wheeler can be a 15, 16 game winner. I honestly believe that. Nola, you would love to have Nola back on the hill, but he's dealing with the ankle. He's going to be shut down throwing for a couple of days because he's got that right side stiffness. So, he's 32. And he has logged a lot of innings. 200 innings, 193, 199. I mean, he's logged a substantial amount of innings for the Phillies. Wheeler is their ace. That's the guy you throw out there to stop the bleeding. That's the guy, you need 6, 7, hell, give me 8. That's the guy. I mean, that's the reason they went and they got Wheeler. Now, granted, his last outing against Atlanta was not good. He only lasted five and a third. He gave up 6 runs, all earned. Struck out, I think, six or seven, walked a couple. But prior to that, he won his last four starts. I mean, in the game against Tampa, he was dominant. So that's the guy you sent out there, Sarge, to stop the bleeding. Yes, they need bullpen help. Yes, they'll need another arm. But which team doesn't? Like, give me a team in baseball that wouldn't want to add to their bullpen or, add another arm. You talk about these, the best rotations in baseball right now. Where are you going to go? If you rank them, I mean, it's pretty much one team. It's the Dodgers. And there's a reason they're the Dodgers, and there's a reason they spent. I mean, they're, if Nola was healthy, then you can argue, well, you know what? Wheeler, Luzardo, Nola, Sanchez, that's not bad. That's not bad. But if you look at the Dodgers, I mean, you're talking about ace level pitchers. You're talking about guys that return. You're talking about the depth. They've got guys beyond their top starters. That's what makes them very scary. That's why they're arguably, again, going to be one of the best teams in baseball. If you rank all these guys, right? I mean, the Mets are a perfect example. Everyone thought the Mets were going to have a disappointing season because you lost a couple of guys. You lost Montez to injury in the spring training. You lost the other pitcher, Manaea. You lost some guys, but yet they have kind of stayed afloat. They've done a really good job with their starters and their middle relief and their relief and their bullpen. But some teams are just, Toronto, the Athletics, you start to get to the top 10 rotations. I mean, it's easy to sit there and say Pittsburgh because obviously you got the kid who's ridiculous. You can also throw in Seattle. You can look at Tampa Bay. Seattle, they pitched better, and it's always if they get healthy. But then you start to go to those really, 6, 7, 8, Texas, Detroit starting rotation is very good. Houston's is very good. The Giants, believe it or not, they pitched really well this season. And then you look at the Twins, you look at the Phillies that I mentioned. But again, it was just, you need guys to be healthy, right? Guys to be healthy. And if they're not healthy and you're not getting innings in, you're going to be in trouble. And that's kind of where the Phillies are right now. It's kind of where the Yankees are right now as well. The Weaver, that injury, that was a big blow. It really was. Let me squeeze in a couple comments before we hit 5 o'clock. We'll go NFL heavy, by the way, in the 5 o'clock hour. What do we got there? Bobby D in OC in Ocean City chiming in. Q, I'm not going to write the Phillies off. As you mentioned, it's a long season. We know how the Mets have collapsed in years past. Well, again, no one's writing them off. But, how about this? Yeah, I know. That's horrible. That's horrible. That is horrible. Oh, my God. That kid deserves so much more. A 1.12 ERA. That is just, well, I mean, listen, he can't, not all is bad for him, right? Not all is bad for him. We kind of leave it at that. Things can be worse for that kid. That's a great stat. I think he's 4-6 overall. I mean, the ERA 1.88. Oh my God, help this kid out. Look at this. I pull it up right now. This is going back. We'll go May 12th against the Mets. They lost. So no decision. They lost 4-3. He pitched six hits, 1 run, struck out 6. They lost to the Phillies 1-0. He got saddled with the loss. He pitched 8 friggin' innings. He struck out 9. He gave up 3 hits. No offense. Got a win against Arizona. His second to last outing versus Houston. He pitched 8 innings of 3-hit ball, gave up 1 run, and they lost 3-0. 0-0 production. That's horrible. You know what those numbers remind me of? Who was the pitcher Oh man, who was the pitcher for the Mariners? Remember that kid? I think him. Did he pass away? Was it Jose Fernandez? Jose Fernandez. I remember he passed away because it was a wasn't it a boating accident, right? It was a boating accident. But do you remember his numbers in like 2000 and I have to pull them up. They were staggering numbers, and he never got run support. I mean, I know it's unfortunate he was only 24 when he passed away, but there are a couple other pitchers that have been like that. De facto leader, the Bunker Boys. Sorry, late. My son graduated from high school today. Are the Phillies cooked? Q. Well, congratulations with the young man graduating. You must be a proud father. Is he going? Yeah, where is he going? Where are we going? What's the decision? Are we going to see like on TV? Is he going to like throw these different hats? Is it going to be like B-boy college, bunker boy college? Are we going to go JUCO? Are we going to go liberal arts? Are we going to go 4 year? We stay in close to home? We need a little more information. The Phillies are not cooked. You only want me to say the Phillies are cooked. So when the Phillies go 12-3 over their next 15, you can throw it back in my face. No teams are cooked June 9th. None. ODU. Is that a little Old Dominion? ODU. It's a nice little university, is it not? That's in Norfolk, Virginia. By the way, a very notable alumni, Justin Verlander. What is ODA? What's ODU? What are they? What's their mascot? What's their what is their mascot? Kings? Is it like a king? What are they? Kings, Spartans? Something I know there's in that realm somewhere. King, Spartan, or something in the I don't know in the what is it? I'd have to pull it up. Oh, see, I'll leave it to you guys. What are they? Home? There it is. Home of the Monarchs. Very good. Very good. Well, congratulations. Probably a rodent like on the Union strike. Oh, Big Blue Line is their mascot. Can you imagine if you went to a college and your the mascot was a rat, like a rodent, like a like a mouse? Can you imagine that? Like Mouse U, Rodent Juco. uh, Good topics to start the show. Small markets in the NBA will not get the star power, yet alone budget for good graphics, even with the commissioner saying he needs to spend time and money on those markets. Look at that incredible shrinking Hermano. SR 1029, the game chiming in. That's a good question. Has he learned the art of the bunker leader? Yeah, that's something where you have that talk, right? Remember when you're a kid and you're 16, 17, 18, you get your driver's license. For some people, it takes them, 6 or 7 times. I'm not saying who, but anyway, yeah, you have to have the talk, right? Wear your seatbelt. Now it's don't text and drive, don't drink and drive. Then you have you know, the growing up talk. If he starts to, have a girlfriend, they're serious, the relationships, like, be careful where you're parking the car, be careful whose driveway you park the car in, son. And then to Madman's point, then you have to give them the light lessons on the bunker boys. Now, again, as we know, the bunker boys, they are cut from a different cloth. So the Q crew, the loyals that listen in, we always say there are those that run towards the fire. But we've seen in the past that the B-boys do not run towards the fire. Some of the B-boys run away from the fire. Some of the B-boys put their phone on airplane mode. Some of the B-boys go high above the mountains where their voice cannot be heard. We just want to make sure when this young man treks off to college and becomes goes from a boy to a man, that the lessons again of the b-boys instill the good lessons to him, not the other ones that many have a problem with. Always vinyl wrap the car before parking in the garage. Well, I mean, look, there are some people that choose to cover up the car if they think it's going to rain, and there are others that just don't. They just, let nature take over. I mean, what the hell do I know? He's a Birds fan and welcome in the bunker. He doesn't know your history, Q. We were listening to the show and he asked if you were an Eagles fan. Well, you know what? I like the young man has a little gumption. He's got a little gumption. Well, I wish him the best of luck. And going away to college, that is always a fun experience. You have to, I always say this to the young folk. You have to live life a little bit. You have to go away. Even if it's a couple hours away, even if you go community college first, a year or two, some cases 2.5 for some, and then you go away to college. Like, just enjoy it. Just enjoy it. Because ultimately, I hate to say this, it's horrible to say, but education is paramount. But as you get older, you'll realize, unfortunately, the diploma is just a diploma. It's on the wall. It's great to have. You need to get an education. Absolutely. But ultimately, man, when you start to get in that workforce a couple years from now, man, it's just timing is everything, man. And it's all about who you know or who you don't know, not really what you know. All right, 5 o'clock straight up on this Monday edition of Middays with Q, powered by our good friends over at Trix 57. Rich Quinones here. A lot of comments coming in. Some of you guys are a little confused by my leaving the car not covered analogy. If you guys just join in, I don't know what to say on that one. I really don't. I just, I think at this moment, someone who probably will chime in and knows exactly how to address that comment that you guys have been saying is probably going to be the man. He's pretty good with that kind of stuff. He's not as gun shy as I am, let's just say. And he usually just, fires off. All I'm saying is, young man going away to college, make sure you park your car in the right spot. That's all. That's it. That's the only advice I can give your son. Make sure you park your car in the right spot. All right, fast approaching 5 o'clock. Quick timeout. We'll come back on the other side. NFL, 16 to book, 60 to play with on this Monday. All right, welcome back, everyone. 5:05 on a Monday. Monday edition of Middays with Q. Rich Quinones here, powered by our good friends over at Trix 57, Burlington County College. Oh my goodness, the lounge. All jokes aside, congrats to mini bunker leader. Best 4.5 years of his life ahead of him. The worst is if you went to JUCO, if you went to junior college and you dick around for like a semester or two, then you're screwed taking night classes in the summer. I don't advise. I highly advise against that kind of stuff. Pay attention. Pay attention. If there's anything to learn from today's show, pay attention and know exactly where the hell you're parking your car. That's all I can give the young folks today. That's it. Let me read off a couple more of these. First lady chiming in Newcastle, Delaware. Q. I'm not going to say the Phillies are cooked. I know they got a lot of issues, but eventually when they get all their guns firing off, especially when Harper comes back, the offense will be fine. Offense is in trouble. Their offense is in trouble. You can't get swept by Pittsburgh. You can't. You can't get swept by Pittsburgh. Now, I get it. The kid's on the hill yesterday. It's a different animal. 7 2/3, 2 hits, gave up 1, struck out 7. Fine. But can you at least win 2 or 3? Can you win 2 out of 3? That's all I'm asking. That's it. That's all I'm asking. And the same can be said for the Yankees. Take 2 or 3 from Boston. Take 2 or 3 from Boston. That was a horrible series. Baseball is a very long season. You know it, and I know it. And a lot of times what happens is you will get a team that knows they need to make a move and they will make a trade. And this is, it falls on a lot of people, I think, have given Dombrowski a little bit of a pass. I know Jovan's not, but I feel as though I don't believe he should get a pass. I think that you're allowed to criticize him. And here's another, thought here. So is Schwarber going to be part of the Phillies long term? Is he? Is he going to be part of their plans long term? Guys got to get paid. Guys want to get paid. So that's something, these GMs, they know in baseball, they have to spend money. They have to be aggressive. And they also understand that the window is only opened for so long. And I'm looking at this guy right now, and you can make a case and say he's failed. The Phillies, he has. He's failed the Phillies. And people will look and they'll say, okay, well, why is this team underachieving? And I think it's okay to not only put him on the hot seat, but I also believe you can put Rob Thompson on the hot seat. I think he might be managing for his job right now with the Phillies. You can't avoid injuries. You can't. But they just have been so, inconsistent. So inconsistent. And they're going to be in a battle with the Mets. You just know. And I know different writers had a different take. I'm going to talk to Steve Garner tomorrow, a baseball writer for USA Today. But, hey, man, we've seen it. We've seen managers get fired early on in seasons. Now, I'm not going to suggest that they're going to do that, but go back 2023, you blow that 3-2 lead in the NLCS to Arizona. Last year, you win 95 games, you take home the NL East title. You're in a bye in the NLDS, and then you get eliminated by the Mets in 4. And that's the Phillies since making the World Series back in 2022. So now you've exited the playoffs earlier and earlier each subsequent year. It's not like you're, NLDS or wildcard, NLDS, NLCS, World Series, boom, boom, boom. No, you're going back the other way. And is that enough to fire a manager? Listen, when expectations are very high, you can have that discussion. You can have that debate. If they don't get to an NLCS, then I can see them making a change. I know it's easy to say you got to get to a World Series. They're not the Yankees. They're not the Dodgers. They're not. I mean, you're talking about it's apples and oranges. No disrespect to the Phillies. But I'm not going to sit here and say, no. I mean, we know about the fan base. I mean, look, the Yankees, I'm getting Yankees fans panicking already. They're 4.5 game lead in the AL East. All right, NFL. So I mentioned this at the top of the show. Anytime a player gets cut, right away, Team A, B, C, and their fan base got to grab him, got to grab him. Now it's Jair Alexander. Just got cut by the Packers. Got to grab him, got to grab him. Well, this guy's been injured for 2 seasons. When healthy, he's great, but he's also been injured. And you just knew eventually the Packers were going to cut ties with him. He appeared in just 7 regular season games each of the past 2 seasons. Didn't play after November 17th last year. Practiced on a semi-regular basis. Went on the IR the final week of the season. Had the knee surgery. Had the issue with the torn PCL. Good player, but can't stay healthy. Can't stay healthy. So the Packers are going to pick up about $12 million in salary cap space for the season. The second, and I think this is a huge move, a big move by the Texans. We know that they wanted to, just give another dimension to their offense and take some pressure off CJ Stroud. And it looks like they're about to, or they are expected to sign Nick Chubb to a 1-year contract. Now, I'll say this. I know the kid has dealt with some injuries, but I think Nick Chubb, I like Chubb. He is a good running back, and he runs hard, and he has a pretty good average, again, when he's healthy and he's upright. Now if you can get a 75 to 80, I mean, think about who you're throwing in there with, the offset change of pace back. Now, that's a crowded backfield, don't get me wrong, because you got Mixon back there, you got Pierce, you got the 4th-round draft pick, too, the kid out of USC. But I think it's a good move. I think it's a smart move. They're adding depth, and that's all they can, at this moment, that's all they can do. And we talked a lot at length, ad nauseum, about that division. Anything to give you a leg up to separate yourself in an already weak division, take it. Because now you're already starting to hear out of Indianapolis, Daniel Jones is going to be starter number 1. He's going to be the starter for the Colts because Richardson's dealing with all these injuries. And you got to start to look at Daniel Jones player props. You got to look at Anthony Richardson futures and player props, especially knowing that he's banged up and Jones is probably going to get the ball and be under center for week 1 when they host the Dolphins. And then you got the whole Jacksonville stuff with Trevor Lawrence. And, again, which Lawrence is going to show up. And you got a rookie in Cam Ward for Tennessee. So I like that move by the Texans today. And as far as Alexander, look, a lot of guys get cut. A lot of guys, you just know it's not a good fit, especially if they're coming off injuries, if they're inconsistent. So I would just kind of calm down a little bit. Kevin C. in New York chimes in. Q, did you see that Wendell Robinson said that Russell Wilson has been better than expected? Ha, ha, ha. Let him cook. That's great. That's great. I hope, from what I read and what I see and those I speak to, they said, yes, Russell Wilson has been solid. That's all well and good. But we know about the Giants' offensive line. We know the offensive line has had a lot of issues over the years. We know the offensive line has had an issue keeping a quarterback upright. You're talking about a quarterback in Russell Wilson that has been sacked a obscene amount of times over the last several years. I would just, again, they might be better offensively. Sure, Russell Wilson's an upgrade over Daniel Jones. Hell, you might even argue Jameis Winston is an upgrade over Daniel Jones. No one's going to dispute that. But if these guys aren't upright, they're going to have problems. And that line has had issues, not only with pass protection, but also run blocking. And then the Giants, they're not a team like the Philadelphia Eagles, where on first down, you're ripping off Saquon for 6, 7, 8 yards, and you get a second and short, a third and short. They're not that team. They were throwing to get the short yardage situations, and those were all little dink and dunks. Little slant routes. Here you go. Now, look, they've got burners. They've got playmakers. They do. They got to get them the ball, period. The Giants have some weapons on offense. They do. They just have to figure out a way to get the football to these guys. When you look at some of, they got speed. They got speed. Neighbors is a stud. Robinson is very solid. Slayton's a good veteran guy. I mean, hell, they still got Hyatt back there. Theo Johnson, the tight end. They got a couple good running backs in Tracy and Singletary. They've got some offensive weapons, but if the line can't keep these guys upright, Daniel Jones was sacked 30 times last year in 10 games. Drew Lock was sacked 12 times. They gave up 48 sacks. And now you're talking about a quarterback in Russell Wilson that is older. He's not in his 20s anymore. He's 36. That's been sacked 55, 45, and 33 times over his last 3 seasons. A lot of hits. Russell Wilson's got to get the ball out of his hands quickly. Quickly. If they can do that, sure. Maybe they can move the ball a little bit and score some points. But let's have it, these preconceived notions here. You guys thinking the Giants are going to be good because the guy's looking good in OTAs? That's you're stretching, man. You're reaching. You're reaching big time. Nick Smees chimes in. Q, did you see that Wendy said there's a mutual interest between Kidd and the Knicks? Of course there is. Absolutely. I think that is to me, I think that would be I think that's the right hire. I believe that. I believe he would be the right hire. I think they need a guy that played at a high level, knows the game, floor general, leader, Hall of Fame player, is going to hold guys accountable, is not going to take any nonsense. I'm not going to say Tibbs took nonsense, but Kid's a guy where, if I'm seeing Cat just chuck it out there from beyond the arc and not get his ass on the low block, once he misses that second or third one, he's coming out. Like, Kid's going to do that. We've seen him do that. We've seen him do that. And he's a good coach. And I think they need that type of change in philosophy and culture. And who knows, whoever they hire, what are they going to do with the staff? They bringing back Cheeks. They're going to bring back Rick Brunson. There's reports that some of the players and Brunson didn't see eye to eye. You're talking about your franchise player and Jalen Brunson's dad on the coaching staff, which can make for some awkward moments during timeouts. So they really have to figure it out. They really have to figure it out. AG on X chimes in. Q, did you see that Anthony has the shortest odds to win the AL Rookie of the Year? I don't think he has the shortest odds. I think he has the second or third shortest odds. And I'll check. I will check with my guys from the Action Network at the break. But I don't believe he's got the shortest odds. I think he has the second or third shortest odds. Now, I'll tell you this. If they're at plus 1,600, hell, take a flyer on it right now. But let me see if I can get that for you during the break. All right, 20 past 5 o'clock hour. Quick timeout. We'll come back. We'll reset the table. I want to get back to a little more of the NFL talk as well. We'll take you up to 6 o'clock straight up on a Monday. All right, welcome back, everyone. 25 past the 5 o'clock hour. I did check, so it's the third shortest odds that you guys were asking about, which is not bad. Plus 1,800 for Roman Anthony. Wow. So he's batting fifth in his MLB debut. Hmm. Man, this kid looks like he's going to be a beast. That is a sweet friggin' swing. My goodness. Mm. Plus 1,800. Not bad, not bad, not bad. Uh, Not bad at all. Got a couple more giant questions here. Greg chiming in. Q, what's the over and under? How many games do you think Russell Wilson's going to start? I think it's a loaded question. Um, I don't know. I really don't know. So if they struggle, then logic would say that they probably want to go to Dart earlier rather than later. But if maybe their defense is not carrying them and they're scoring 23 a game, which for the Giants is unbelievable, uh, maybe he has a little more wiggle room, 6, 7, 8 games. It's a possibility. That's all I'm saying, right? That's a possibility. And we had to feed the pup during the break. It's a 2-minute, standard radio break. Madman. So, I mean, listen, if it's a long break, in the radio business, if it was like a stairway to heaven, then you knew that the DJ had to use the misses or the men's room. That's I'm educating you guys. If you hear that song, if it's about 5, 6, 7 minutes, maybe they had to go freshen up and use the men's room, right? So 2, 3 minutes standard, and the dog has to eat. It's 5 o'clock. Kiki needs to eat. You don't hear Kiki barking anymore, do you? Because we have Kiki on a set schedule. It's regimented. She's disciplined. She's ready to go. Period. 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 My goodness, you guys are too much. Larry in Galloway chiming in. Cute, good baseball talk to start things off. I'm a diehard Mets fan. Do you see the Mets making any type of move? I love the run that they're in. And by the way, can we get a little credit to the polar bear? Yeah, Alonso, 2 home runs the other night, right? Pete Alonso passed David Wright for second all time in Mets history, and he trails the straw man by 9. Darryl Strawberry, I always have this. It's a great, I don't even know if it's a like conversation, but Dwight Gooden and Darryl Strawberry were they were easily on their way to the Hall of Fame. And people don't believe me. They have to look up the stats. They have to look up the stats on their own. But look at Dwight Gooden, and we're going to go liberal arts math right now. We're going to do it on the air together. Dwight Gooden, I'm going to give you his first his first 5 years in the bigs. 1984, 1985, 1986, 1987, 1988. Dwight Gooden won 91 games. Okay. He then pitched 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Remember, he missed all of 95. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 more years. Now just follow me. He won 91 games. He then pitched 11 more years. He finished with 194 wins. Think about that for a moment. If he never got involved with the drugs and the alcohol and the coke and all the stuff and the suspensions and just everything, he would have easily won 250 games, 260 games, maybe 270. You're talking Dwight Gooden, Hall of Fame. Hall of Fame. It's staggering. It's staggering when you think about it. Those 4 or 5 years, Cy Young, MVP, Rookie of the Year, top three, top four, top five, Rookie of the Year, Cy Young, 24-4, 17 wins, 24, 17, 15, and 18. And then he came back in 1990 and he won 19 games, but then obviously everything, all the production. The same can be said if you look at Darryl Strawberry's career. Same thing. Same thing with Strawberry. Early on in his career, he was a beast. 26, 26, 29, 27, 39, 39 home runs. 37, 28. And then the last 7, 8 years of his career, that second arc, his best season was with the Yankees when he hit 24. I mean, 5, 4, 3, suspend, oh my God, 330. He would have had 500 home runs. Those two would have been in the Hall of Fame. Easily would have been in the Hall of Fame. For so many years, early on, they were just absolutely dominant. And the reason I bring it up is because now you look at Pete Alonso, and Pete Alonso quietly has put together a really remarkable Met career. It really is remarkable when you look at his numbers. Ultimately, he's going to have his number retired. 243 home runs. And he just hit 30. And remember, a couple years ago, everyone was saying this guy was bad for the locker room. The Mets need to trade him, get rid of him. His numbers are off the chart. He's played 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years. If he plays another 5 or 6, he's going to have well over 400 home runs. He's put together a really nice career as a Met. And he's a first baseman too. So again, think about it. Or if the time comes, he goes in the AL, whatever, DH. The point is that he's been as steady as they come. And the fact that he not only passed David Wright, who was a beloved Met, and he's only 9 behind the straw man, that kind of tells you something. It really does. Yep, he is becoming an all-timer. He is. Yeah, and even if you dig past the numbers, 647 ribbies, 243 home runs, 162 doubles. He's approaching, he'll have well over 900 hits. He'll have probably 2,000 hits when it's all said and done. I hate to kind of project, but yes. Yep. And he's had some monster moments too in the postseason, right? When everyone was kind of brushing him to the side. Obviously, we saw what he was able to do last postseason. That's, he woke up at the most, perfect time, did he not? The one home run, or I should say 4 home runs last year, one was huge. That's who the Mets are banking on, right? That's the Pete Alonso they want. And it's good to see a guy like that because he was ice cold and then he had that go-ahead home run in the 9th. And good for him. Good for him because, those are very rare moments, right? Those are really rare. So he was struggling, and then boom, what happens? 9th inning, Mets by the Brewers, NLDS. He's probably not going to hit a bigger home run like that in his career. And they were down in that game 2-0, and he hits a 3-1 changeup right to right. It was just wow. Players like that have moments. Strawberry had those moments in the postseason with the Mets. Hell, Lenny Dykstra was a great postseason player. Not only for the Mets, but for the Phillies in 93. Nails was great. These guys, their careers, the first 4, 5, 6 years, put on monster numbers. But sometimes injuries, and in the case of Strawberry and Gooden, their careers got derailed. Drugs, alcohol, they couldn't stay the course. They bounced around a little bit. But that happens, man. I mean, that happens. I mean, listen, the toughest thing to do when you're good, you know you're good. But when you're really good and you want to be an all-time great, that's when the discipline comes into play, and knowing your environment, knowing your circle, you know, steering clear of temptation. I mean, hell, look at those Met teams, 84, 85, the 86 Mets, coming back, spring training, 1987 Mets. Everyone thought they had an opportunity to repeat, and it was different back then. No wild card. You had to win your division. They finished second. They won 92 games, and they finished second, and they didn't make the postseason. So they had that team was stacked. That team was stacked, but they had so many issues, so many issues. Their fights and brawls, and guys weren't getting along. And man, they could have done something really special. And it was wasted talent. That 87 team, some argue they were better than the 86 team. You had Carter, Hernandez, Backman, Santana, Johnson, McReynolds, Dykstra, Strawberry. You had Mookie Wilson, you had Tuffle, you had Mackinnon, Macadania Nuts, Lee Mazzilli. They had guys coming off the bench. They had utility guys, and they were stacked. And they had very good pitching as well. But that was it. They had their one little run. And that was pretty much it. And then, as I mentioned, those careers kind of went downhill from there. And it's unfortunate. We'll talk a little more about this with Steve Gardner tomorrow. I also want to get his thoughts because we haven't spoken to him since the Pete Rose passing, where he stands with Pete Rose. And really, 2 months into the baseball season, which teams right now have that staying power? I mean, Detroit is really a pleasant surprise. I don't think a lot of people had Detroit on their bingo card winning the Central. Usually the Twins are right there because they win a lot of road games, which tells you they have very good starting pitching. The Astros and the Mariners, I think, are going to go back and forth in the West. I'm also curious to get his thoughts on what the Angels are going to do with Mike Trout. As soon as we mentioned Mike Trout, what was it, a week ago? We were talking about Mike Trout, banged up, coming off the IL. Have you looked at, Mike Trout's numbers? I mean, Mike Trout, he had a little burst, 3 for 4, 2 for 3. He had the home run against Boston. Has not hit a home run in 5 games. But Trout is an interesting name to kind of watch. And that's another player. And it was because injuries robbed him of his career. I mean, Mike Trout, let's be honest. Mike Trout's a Hall of Fame player. He's a generational player. He's a generational talent. The first 4 to 5 years of his career were just unheard of. 2019, he was the best player in baseball. Best player in baseball. But again, got a little older. The way he played, the outfield position, he got banged up, man. Got banged up. Body started to break down. Everyone had their theories. I'm not one of those guys. I just think the body banged down. It was a style play, taxing, grueling, and here we go. He hasn't really been able to put up the type of numbers that he had in the first 5, 6, 7 years. Now, 2022 was a nice bounce back season, but then 2023, 2024, and now we're 2025. He's sitting on 388 home runs. It would be great to see Trout hit 400 home runs with the Angels. If they decide to ship him off, he's going to have to actually start to go on a little home run streak here because we know that the trade deadline is in July. But with that being said, here's a guy, if you were to project Mike Trout, I mean, hell, if you took 2021, that's a different animal, COVID, right? Or 2020. 2021, he was hurt 36 games. But let's just say if you gave him another, I don't know, 20, 20, 20, 60, 20 is 80. Now you're talking 460 to almost 470 home runs, which means 500 is right there. That's how good he was. That's how good he was, especially for 6, 7 years. Did the NBA always have this much time in between games? Didn't the players only get rest during travel days? We talked about this again too last week. Some you had back to back. It's so annoying. I remember playoffs where, remember the 2-3-2 back in the day? And you had one day and then you'd have back to back nights. Yeah, I can't stand it. You're stretching the season out. The format, the playoff format, when you start talking about rest days, it annoys the hell out of me. It annoys it in the playoffs. The rest days between games, it all varies on the series and the round. So there's no some number set number of days. But man, think about this: the Thunder won so fast; they had so much time, and then the Knicks and the Pacers were going back and forth for 6 games. I don't like the 2 days off non-travel. I don't. Um, I've heard players come out and say they want more time. Aaron Gordon came out and said he wants more time. He feels the product would be better. I'm not necessarily agreeing with that. I get it. You deal with an injury here or there, a hamstring injury, and you want to gut it out. Makes sense. That's fine. But the season's long enough. Their whole thing was keeping players fresh. So the NBA players pretty much contend with a long 82 game regular season. By the time the postseason comes around, every player is dealing with some type of injury and fatigue. But that's just sports. That's sports. Every player deals with that, whether it's a 72 game season or an 82 game season. They're always going to be banged up. They're always going to be tired. They're always going to be fatigued. They're always going to be battling through some type of injury. Tweak your back, your ankle, your shin, your wrist, your shooting hand, your shoulder, your scapula, whatever, man. You're dealing with something every day. Yes, 2-3-2. Echo those sentiments. Yep, there was nothing better than that. Nothing better than a 2-3-2. Nothing better than that. Because Jordan got banged up so early in his career, and I'm so glad that the last ride, right? The last dance, pardon me, and 30 for 30, the Bad Boys documented, because Jordan was getting his ass handed to him physically. The Knicks were banging him up. Boston was banging him up. Pistons are banging him up. And remember too, he got hurt early on in his career, and then he realized, I got to get stronger. So he really started to take to lifting weights and just bulking up, but yet to the point where Jordan bulking up was like shredded, like really defined muscle, but he was strong. He was strong in the lower body. He was strong physically up top. So every time he would go to the rim, when the Pistons or the Celtics or the Knicks or, whomever, insert team A, they were banging his ass to the ground, he would get right back up because his body was breaking down. And he decided, I need to start, building myself up. I need to start building my body. These playoffs are very physical, and I'm going to get worn down. And remember now, 88, 89, Detroit went through them. And that was the miss. Detroit went to the NBA Finals. I mean, the 87 team, the Boston Celtics, then they went 88 to the Lakers. They lost. 89, they came back. They beat the Lakers. 90, they beat the Portland Trailblazers. They're talking about the Pistons. And Jordan's like, I got to get stronger. I got to get stronger. So 89, 90, 91, that's when he started to really implement the offseason, strength, conditioning, building up his body. And yes, that made him fresh come playoff time. And the game, too, was totally different. The game was totally different at that time. From a physical standpoint, the way the NBA game was called, I mean, hell, you were allowed to, just a dog walk guys. A guy going to the rim, put him on his ass, you put him on his back. The game is so different now, right? It's all right. Is it a flagrant 1? Is it a flagrant 2? Let's go to the tape. Let's go to the replay. Is it a side out? They call the game so different now. So different. But in the late 80s, early 90s, go watch some of those games. Kurt Rambis, clothesline, a Magic Johnson elbow, Isaiah Thomas, Lambier smacking Worthy smacking Lambier. It was just a different game. It was called differently. And that's one of the reasons you got those 88, 86 types of games between the Bulls, the Knicks, Indiana, the Knicks, the Pistons, the Heat. It's so wide open now that I know these guys want more rest and they want their bodies to heal, but the game is called differently. They want it to be more offensive. They really do. I mean, guys are getting away with double dribbles. Guys are getting away with traveling. Guys are getting away. Jalen Brunson with the elbows. Every time a late kick, extension on the shot, going to the line. They want points. They're saying to themselves, the game's going to be much more exciting, pardon me, if it's more wide open. That's not necessarily the case. It really isn't. All right, last time out, Q Factor coming up on the other side. A couple more comments, and we'll close it out on a Monday edition of Middays with Q, powered by our good friends over at Trix 57. All right, about 10 to play with on this Monday. Let's get to the Qfecta. You can use the promo code BYP20 from our good friends over at Fresh Roasted Coffee. Love the Marlins tonight. Give me the Cubs as well, money line versus the Phillies. I know Wheeler's pitching tonight, but the Cubs are pretty red hot. And I do also want to ride with the Brewers plus 130 over a struggling Braves team right now. We go through baseball. We mentioned the Yanks are 4.5 up on Tampa, 4.5 up on Toronto in the AL East. Detroit is 7 on the AL Central over the Twins, 7.5 over the Guardians as well. Houston 2.5 over Seattle in the West. The Mets are 4.5 games above the Phils in the NL East. Chicago 4 in the Central over the Cardinals. And then pretty much the most competitive division right now is the NL West. Dodgers have a 1-game lead over the Padres and the Giants. Diamondbacks, and then, of course, Colorado. Colorado is minus 198 run differential. But I brought this up, I think it was maybe about 45 minutes ago. Seattle is at 0. Like, they're your even Steven type of team, right? A little bit up, a little bit down. The worst run differential belongs to Colorado. Pittsburgh, minus 61. The Marlins, minus 84. The Athletics, they're going to be buyers again. What else is new? Minus 115. Best plus run differential in baseball right now belongs to the Chicago Cubs, plus 105, and the Yankees are second. If you're curious, the Phillies are plus 15. And that's kind of tells you where you're at with the Phillies, right? You're losing 2-1, 3-2, 4-2. You're giving up 6, you're giving up 7. You're not backing your pitching. They gave up in that series against the Brewers. They gave up 28 runs in three games. That is just absolutely a disgrace. 6-2, 17-7, 5-2. That's a disgrace. And if they don't get that first win against Toronto in the opener of that 3-game set, you're talking about a team that's lost what? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 games in a row. 11 games in a row. That's how bad it's been for the Phillies. They got to turn it around. I like Wheeler tonight, but I just like the Cubs offense better. It's one of the reasons I like the Cubs. So you got the Reds and the Guardians, Marlins and the Pirates, Cubs and the Phillies. That's a 6:45 first pitch. That'll be Boyd against Wheeler. Yankees have the night off. 3-game set against Kansas City starting tomorrow, and then 3 against the Boston Red Sox. So you have a light night in baseball. Tomorrow, we'll get into a little more. And then you got game 3, Stanley Cup Finals tonight. Right now, Edmonton is plus 125. Florida is minus 145. I mean, look, I told you I went with the Panthers for the series. I'm not going to change that at all. It's not part of my trifecta, but I do like the Panthers tonight. What's interesting is, if you're talking about the puck line, like these teams are scoring. So I pulled up Action Network. If you're curious, Action Network for tonight's game, 6.5. I mean, think about this. 4-3, 5-4. I mean, these two teams are good for 3 to 4 plus goals. And you got to factor if one team takes the lead early, it's not safe. Florida jumps out to a 2-0, 3-1 lead. Edmonton's coming back, and then you go to overtime. You're good to go. You're good to go. You covered the juice, 6.5. So that's game 3 tonight at 8 o'clock. I just think both the first 2 games have been extraordinary. Extraordinary. Because you get these overtime games. That's what makes it so appealing to me. And listen, McJesus, yeah, he's a friggin' player, man. He is a player. He just bobs and weaves, man, through those defenses. Perry was a detriment for the Panthers too, right? I mean, he was causing a ton of havoc in front of Bob. So, including the game tying goal with 17.8 left in the third period, sent it in overtime. But Florida came back. They showed a lot of poise, and they got that game 2 win in OT. I think game 3 is going to be just as exciting. Look, I think if you struck gold in game 2, when you're looking for like a player prop, right? So Kane had the goal, and you got to strike when the iron's hot. So I think right now, some people are looking at Lundell of the Panthers. If you want to play that, for a goal in the game, on top of being their primary assister on both of Marchand's goals. He was pretty slick defensively. Again, plays very well. 19 games he's played, 14 points, playoff leading, plus 15. So there's a play for you if you want to throw that into the mix. So you got game 3 tonight, and then we'll recap it tomorrow. And then, as I mentioned, NBA Finals. I believe the series is over. I do. I believe Wednesday night the Thunder go in to Indianapolis and they trounce the Pacers. They're 5.5 point favorites, and the total in the game is 228. And this Thunder team's going to be able to score 125. So the Pacers got to get it. If they're keeping it close, you can see if the Thunder are up by 15, all of a sudden the Pacers, come back. It's a 110, 115, 125, 128 kind of game. You're good. So I'm looking right now at the Thunder and the points and the over, the total, the over for that game as well. All right, going to start wrapping it up before we get out of here. There you go. What's the over-under amount of toys Kiki rips to shreds tonight? 1.5. That's a great call. We've been going the Kong route. We gave her another squeegee toy, and she's been good with it. Anything that has like the chicken, the rabbits, the mice, the rats, those chewy toys, it's a done deal. I mean, it's just pissing away money. I look at the toy, and I tell the toy, Godspeed, via con Dios. That toy doesn't even last 15 seconds. When I went to the pet store, and I said, I'm an aggressive chewer, period. Oh, the Kong. Okay. She friggin' ripped through that. I mean, this dog, there no boundaries. None. So to answer your question, man, I got a couple toys that I'm going to present to her tonight, I'm going to say two. I'm going to say over two toys. She's going to rip them to shreds. Yeah, it's a done deal. All right, as we start wrapping it up, tomorrow we'll probably hit a pre-recorded with Steve Gardner. We'll put it on the YouTube channel because I know he's going to be traveling. We'll be back live 4 to 6. Lloyd Vance is going to join us. We're going to see if Angel can join us as well on Tuesday's show. Wednesday, we'll get into a little more NBA. Jonathan Marshall. We got to track down my guy Jovan Alford. Talk a little WNBA because he is a prop king when it comes to the WNBA. Costco, much later in the week. I really want to start looking ahead at some of these divisions in the NFL, the win totals, the futures, the projections. I got some numbers and some odds I want to lay out with Lloyd. I want to get his thoughts on that. I have a couple other guests. We're going to try to track down Lake Lewis, talk a little Washington Commanders off season as well. And you guys, as always, out there chiming in, liking, commenting, subscribing to the YouTube channel. As always, we're powered by our good friends over at Fresh Roasted Coffee. As I mentioned, the show notes below, BYP20, also TriX57. Not sure if we'll be in the studios tomorrow from 4 to 6, but we will be live tomorrow from 4 to 6. So you got Game 3, Stanley Cup Finals. You have the Phillies trying to snap a slide tonight. I think Wheeler gives them a good outing, but I think the Cubs are going to be able to score a couple runs here. I can see this game being in that ballpark, the way it is right now, outside, I can see the ball carrying tonight. I can see the ball carrying. I can see a combined 9 runs, 10 runs in this type of game. But I do like the Cubs tonight. I just think the Phillies have a boatload of issues. We'll continue with the baseball talk later on in the week, right? So we got a lot of stuff to get into with the baseball talk, and we'll see what teams are going to be buyers, which teams are going to be sellers. I also want to touch base a little bit of boxing later in the week. A couple of things transpired over the weekend that caught my attention. I want to dive into that as well. All right, as we're fast approaching 6 o'clock, don't forget you can follow me on all social media platforms, as you guys typically do, on X and IG at Rich Q on Q, Facebook as well, and TikTok, Rich Q on the mic. If you like, comment, subscribe to my YouTube channel at Rich Quinones. BYP is coming back next week. We have a couple of new shows in the pipeline. We got some more guests lined up, so give me a follow on X. Appreciate all the comments. As always, you guys chiming in. I know I couldn't get to everyone on X and Facebook. We will get to your comments tomorrow, live from 4 to 6. A lot of baseball. We'll recap Game 3 of the NHL Finals. We'll start to look ahead to Game 3 of the NBA Finals and a lot more NFL talk as well. Have a good Sports Monday, or we like to say, a Man Up Monday, a Mentiroso Lunes Manolo Monday edition of Middays with Q. Enjoy the baseball tonight. Enjoy the NHL Stanley Cup Finals as well. Game 3, Panthers, Edmonton. The series shifts to Florida, as I pronounced it, a hockey town going forward. And as always, we'll talk to you tomorrow. Be safe, be sound. I'm Rich Quinones. Hasta luego, mi dia.